Hello, this is Dr. Lemaire speaking, and I'm very glad and very honored to participate to this Zoom designed by the Hellman, Evolving Hypnotherapy. Today I'm going to talk about a very specific topic in hypnosis. It's called the OXO model, Science of the Trance. And we'll understand what means managing deep trance. This topic and this presentation comes from my practice. I practice hypnosis since 20 years at my office, every day, with my patient at my dental office. And also it comes from a book about historical hypnosis that I've written. And during this book, when I was writing it, I was very fascinated by, at the same time, the search for the truth in hypnosis, I mean in a scientific, in a medical way, but what was more fascinating was the misconception that the early practitioner had about hypnosis. And so we are all the same, we all have a lot of misconception about hypnosis, and sometimes it's interesting to stop and say, okay, what am I doing and what is it going to do? So with our patient. I based my topic about the OXO, about the work of our predecessor. Okay? So it's a synthesis of the work coming from Pierre Genet, for example, in France, but also, and of course, 𝗍𝗿𝗻 in the US, and also Milton Erickson, and mainly from the collected papers that he wrote about his experimental hypnosis. I based also my presentation on specific research made in hypnosis in neuroscience, and one very interesting study was the Hypnose Science project designed by 𝗺𝗿𝗵𝗴, which studied the somnambulic trance and the 𝗺𝗍𝗲𝗃 trance, and all the brain imagery and the difference that we can have between these two deep trance, and at the same time all the physiological factors that were changing, breathing, pulsation, many things that were studied. So from all these ideas, we say that we have two kinds of deep trance. One is a trance of relaxation, and the other one is a deep trance of activation. And we'll understand how is the difference and how to produce them, because we want something practical. I always talk in hypnosis from the practice to the theory, and I never talk just in a theoretical way. I only based my idea from my practice. So we can say that we have two kinds of deep trance. Usually when, for example, people who are talking about deep trance, they usually say that we have a normal state of consciousness, then we have a light state of hypnosis, middle state, a deep state with somnambulic state, and down we have the 𝗺𝗍𝗃 state. My idea is a little bit different. I think that between these two trends, the difference is qualitative and not quantitative. I based this idea by the neuroscience validation that we have now. So the first kind of deep trance is a trance of relaxation. Milton Erickson called it a deep stuporous trance. 𝗍𝗿𝗻 called it a 𝗺𝗍𝗃 state. It means that you slow down the conscious of the body and of the mind. It's like a focus, you know. You have like a circle. It's a circle of your conscious. Conscious means the body and the mind, of course. And you slow down it. You slow down the conscious of the body and the mind. So you slow down all the physiological and psychological factor of the subject. And the other kind of trance is deep trance, is a trance of activation. It means that you amplify the subconscious of the patient, of the subject. And you want an automatic subconscious answer to suggestion. Because after all, what we want in hypnosis is that the suggestion is accepted. In that kind of trance of activation, we can say that we have a circle It's like a focus on the subconscious. At the beginning, subconscious is very small, very tiny, and you amplify it and you develop it. And trance is just an amplifier and a catalyst, in fact, of the subconscious activity. In hypnosis, we say that the rapport is important, the technique is important, but the most important thing maybe is the brain activity, the brain changing, all the neuroscientific things that are going in the brain of the patient. So this is what we are looking for when we are making deep trance. Now, in a very practical way, how to obtain deep trance. In the first case, when you are looking for a trance of relaxation, so deep stuporous trance or a steady state, you make induction or inductions and deepening technique. What I mean is that we use induction. It can be classical induction, it can be fast induction, it can be instant induction, and then you're using deepening technique in order to reduce and slow down the consciousness of the patient. When you do this a long time, you realize that everything is slowing down. And you can feel it with the patient, with the breathing, with the answer to suggestion. You see that it's going down, 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 down. So that's very classical technique that everybody knows. Okay? When we want to obtain the trance of activation, so somnambulic trance, we are making, to gain that activation of the subconscious, hypnotic phenomena, according, for example, to the Aron scale or any kind of scale of hypnotic phenomena, and we increase the communication with the subconscious. It can be a signaling, something is moving, an ideomotor response. It can be talking in hypnosis when you have a deep trance, or it can be automatic writing. The idea is to increase the process of the mental activity designed by the subconscious. Dr. Michael Preston had a very good definition of hypnosis. He said that it is a state of awareness dominated by subconscious activity. And it's a very good definition of what we are looking for when we are making hypnosis. A key point is the observation of the deep trance. When we are making a trance of relaxation, at the beginning, during the induction, we all have the signs. We observe the signs, the classical signs of hypnosis. For example, the 6 signs designed by 𝗺𝗿𝗏 or any kind of sign of hypnosis. That these signs are usually hyperactivity or hypoactivity of physiological signs like breathing, like swallowing, like the eye movement. So we know it already. But what's the most interesting part is that when we are making somnambulic trance, deep somnambulic trance, we have no sign of hypnosis. We know it when we make street hypnosis or state hypnosis. The subject can be in a very deep trance, very deep somnambulic trance, and is behaving like he's in a normal state. So there's no sign of this relaxation state because we are in activation state. So the only way to know how deep he is in hypnosis is by testing. So now let's go a bit further and understand what I mean by the 𝗁𝗁 metaphor for managing deep trance, science of the trance. So the 𝗁𝗁 is just a metaphor to understand how the deep trance can be produced and managed. First of all, we have this deep stuporous trance, this trance of relaxation. In that kind of trance, as I said, you slow down the activity of the brain, of the body, of the mind. Everything slows down. So it's like you're taking the consciousness activity and you slow it down and it becomes a little peanut, you know, a little circle of activity. 𝗺𝗵𝗴𝗴 had a very interesting definition. They say it's like your focus diminished. The second kind of deep trance, trance of activation, that's the contrary. You start with a subconscious is like a peanut, and you want to amplify, you want to increase it with the patient. So it means that you start with a very narrow, very small focus of the subconscious activity, and you amplify. And when it's fully amplified, you have a complete somnambulic trance. So it means that you have an automatic subconscious answer to the suggestion. But in that kind of model and in that kind of 𝗺𝗿𝗴𝗴 metaphor, that's why I call it 𝗺𝗿𝗴, because it designed a O, a X at the middle, and a O on the other part, so that's quite simple. These two trends are linked together, and that's the most interesting and fascinating part of this topic. What I mean is that the difference between these two trends are qualitative and not quantitative. These deep trends are linked together, and we'll understand how they are linked and what we can do with that link, because we make it in our everyday practice intuitively, and when we make it by design, it's really more powerful. In the classical strategy of making hypnosis, we usually start by establishing a rapport, making sometimes a pre-talk, then a test, ideomotor test, and then the induction, deepening technique, and testing for the level of trance, testing with hypnotic phenomena. And in Hellmanian hypnosis, tests are very important because it's an element of confirmation of the level of trance, but it's also a technique for deepening the trance, and it's a very good convincer for the patient. We must always remember that hypnosis is based on the activation of the brain, and this activation is conditioned by the imagination, the suggestion, and the belief of the subject. So we must always think, when we are making hypnosis, that we play on these three parts. The imagination, it's the activation of the trance, and I see trance as an element of amplifying and a catalyst of the subconscious. The second element is the role of the suggestion. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal suggestion. And the third element is the belief, because all you say in hypnosis, in deep trance to the patient becomes his inner reality. So it becomes a new belief system for the patient. And it can be true in a physiological way, but also in a psychological way. So we see that with this classical strategy, we are moving from the left part of the 𝗺𝗿𝗴𝗴 metaphor to the right. I mean, we start with the conscious, we diminish it with induction, with deepening technique, and then we move to the right of the picture to amplify progressively the subconscious, the role of the subconscious. When we have a problem, usually, what we are making intuitively is that we are using deepening technique or different strategy in order to go to the right part of the picture. But sometimes, and it happens, you start working, start making induction, deepening techniques, and the patient goes so down, right, for example, right down to the astral state, that is in such a pleasant state that he doesn't want to answer to the suggestion. So you can't work with him because you can't gain, for example, levitation, you can't gain hypnotic phenomena, and he's so good, so well, that it doesn't follow the suggestion that you give in an operative way or therapeutic way. So sometimes can be a problem. In a more modern strategy, what I'm using in my everyday life practice is that I don't try to diminish the subconscious activity. I start by amplifying the role of the subconscious. It means that I don't use induction, I don't use deepening technique, I just use hypnotic phenomena to produce hypnosis. I want to start working on the right part of the picture. That's very important, because what I want is to gain a deep somnambulic trance. But I will add in that deep somnambulic trance sometimes ingredients of relaxation when I need it, because hypnosis is not necessarily a relaxed state, okay? It's a very intense state of activation, of brain activation, subconscious activation in the body and in the mind. We see it in the sport, we see it in the army, we see it when we are making surgery. We are not looking for a trance of relaxation, but a trance of activation in order to gain hypnoanalgesia, in order to gain hypnoanesthesia. That's very important. So, I start and I'm looking for a trance of activation. So I start working on the right part of the picture by making hypnotic phenomena, and if I have a problem to gain them, then I will diminish the role of the conscious mind. That's a very classical approach of development technique. What I mean is that I bypass the critical factor, which is the left part of the 𝗁𝗁 metaphor, the 𝗁𝗁 picture, and then I establish the selective thinking, which is the right part. So, in my hypnosis, in order to gain deep trance, I'm mixing, in fact, the ideomotor test, the induction, the deepener, the test. And it reminds me something. What I mean is that that's what 𝗺𝗿𝗹𝗻 designed with the 𝗺𝗿𝗻 induction. In fact, when we study it step by step, we see just production of hypnotic phenomena. First is the catalepsia of minor muscle, then deepening technique, then catalepsia of major muscles, and so on and so on. So, what he's doing is using a strategy that we know in stage hypnosis or that we know in 3D hypnosis, and he designed it for the medical field. And the 𝗁𝗁 metaphor is exactly the same. It's a strategy designed to mix things, producing hypnotic phenomena in order to gain the amplification of the subconscious, but at the same time, you want to diminish the conscious activity. So you are mixing, in fact, the production of hypnotic phenomena with deepening techniques. And a very important and interesting consideration was made by 𝗺𝗿𝗵𝗴. He said, everything that belongs to the subconscious doesn't belong to the conscious. For example, when you are making a rigid catalepsy of the arm, this muscular activity is controlled by the subconscious, and so the conscious has no more access. And that's very important, because it means that with this kind of design, when you go on the right side of the 𝗁𝗁 metaphor, we have less and less conscious activity on control of what is happening in the suggestion. And that's what we want. We want an automatic answer to the subjection. How can we quantify and how can we produce hypnotic phenomena? In fact, it's very simple. When we are making stage hypnosis or street hypnosis, we know it perfectly. We are using a scale. We have a lot of hypnotic scale. We have, for example, the Aaron scale, which is the most popular in hypnosis in the US. And if we identify the elements of the Aaron scale, we can simplify it a little bit. In fact, we start by, when we are making hypnotic phenomena, we start by making physical hypnotic phenomena at the beginning, like catalepsia of minor muscle or major muscle. We start making levitation, hands stacked together, things like this. So how can we produce hypnotic phenomena and how can we quantify them? When we are making street hypnosis or stage hypnosis, we know it perfectly. We are usually using a common hypnotic scale, like the Aron scale, and producing little by little, empirically, in fact, all these hypnotic phenomena. But we must understand what we are doing. It's always important to understand the idea behind the word that we are saying. And in fact, at the beginning, we are making physical activity of the subconscious by making levitation, by making a 𝗁𝗵𝗴𝗃. It can be minor muscle, major muscle, can be hand stacked together, things like this is the physical part. Then we go to more emotional part of the subconscious activity. Then to more cognitive, it's usually the amnesia that we are looking for. And then we are going in more amplification of the subconscious activity by making hypnoanalgesia, hypnoanesthesia, the sensitive part, in fact, of the subconscious. And then we can go to hallucination. So with this idea, when I make hypnosis, I'm not trying to make any kind of induction. I'm trying to make, in fact, step-by-step hypnotic phenomena. And if I got a problem, I have different strategy, like technique, like making induction. But I never start by making induction. I always start by making hypnotic phenomena. First of all, I want, as I said, a physical growing of the subconscious, physical amplification. And I want it to be a very deep trance. I want to gain deep trance of hypnosis. So I start like a hypnotic spiral with small things, tiny things, and then I amplify to gain this deep trance activity. When I practice hypnosis with my patient, I want to gain that deep state of hypnosis, that somnambulic state, because it's the most valuable for therapy, but also for operative hypnosis. So I start by making ideomotor or sensorimotor technique. It can be, for example, spreading fingers. I say to the patient, okay, now watch your fingers, and they are spreading automatically. And the patient watches the fingers that are spreading. It can be tingling fingers. Focus your attention on your tiny little finger, and when you feel a pulse, just move it. It will move automatically. Like this. Relax twice more and then go to the second one. And when you feel the pulse, for example, in that finger, in the pulp of the finger, it will move automatically. And the patient goes like this and then like this, and goes in trance very easily. I can use also a ring finger. I say, okay, watch it, watch the two fingers, okay, focus your attention, and they will move and touch automatically. Okay, and when they touch, it will be so rigid that when you try to move these two fingers, it's like they are stuck together. I can use also classical strategy like magnetic fingers, the magnetic hands that everybody knows, but also some automatic movements like rolling hand or clasping hand, for example, or your finger is making a spiral and it brings you deeper in hypnosis. And so I can see all the automatic movement that are increasing little by little. You can use also technique, ideomotor technique like the revolution of the eyes, for example in the Spiegel induction, when you say to the patient, when the finger touch your eyes, they will close and then you will follow the fingers, so you have automatic revolution of the eyes. I can use also, for example, very easy salivation. I say to the patient, think of what you're going to eat for lunch and feel the salivation is increasing in your mouth. And also I can use all the strategy of the sensorimotor, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactive, gustative at the same time. It can be something interesting. For example, it can be the feeling in the hands. I usually hands in hypnosis to gain a lot of hypnotic phenomena like ideomotor technique, but also 𝗁𝗵𝗴𝗃, but also glove anesthesia, many things. The hands are very important and very interesting because according to the Penfield homunculus, we know that the brain activity is very important when you are using your hand and your mouth also. So I will use a lot of sensor-motor activity. For example, say to the patient, okay, now feel the relaxation getting so intense into your hand that you can't move it. So things very simple. I start by making physical things with the subconscious, and I want it to be automatic. So I give suggestion, okay, don't try to force, don't try to resist, make it happen automatically. Then after gaining this ideomotor response, usually you gain it immediately, very easily, I go to more intense physical activity of the subconscious. Can be catalepsy, can be levitation, can be a eyelid catalepsy, can have a rigid arm, a rigid finger, a floppy arm or floppy finger. You can have sticky fingers, sticky hands, arm levitation or reverse arm levitation. So we know it by heart. Making catalepsy and levitation will increase the control of the subconscious activity, and the patient goes in a deep trance like this. It's also a very good way to evaluate the speediness that they have to go in deep trance, and how much you will gain and how much will it take for you to bring them to a deep somnambulic trance. My idea is always to, when I have my patient at my office, is to put him down as fast as I can in the deepest state of hypnosis, because that's what I want when I'm making surgery, when I want to get hypnoanaesthesia, but also when I'm making hypnotherapy for phobia, stress management, for smoking cessation, weight loss control. I want to have the most interesting level of trance that I can get during the session. Sometimes I get it the first time, sometimes it's training, and I know that I will gain it after the next sessions. Then I want to go to a more emotional part of the hypnotic phenomena. It can be emotion, can be a sense of wellness, of relaxation, but it can be confidence, can be joy, it can be a lot of good things. Sometimes I just ask my patient, think of someone you love, and immediately they have this trance derivational research to get this answer, and they go in trance easily. And then when I get that state of emotion, of good emotion for the patient, I anchor it. It can be visual anchor, auditory anchor, or usually it's kinesthetic anchor. I touch the shoulder of my patient and say, now you're fully confident, fully relaxed, and everything is good for you. Everything will be quite simple and easy for you. Then I go to amnesia. And amnesia is very interesting. Amnesia is not, I don't remember something, is I lost temporarily, by suggestion, the access to an information. So you can lose and make, by suggestion, disappear a lot of things. It can be the numbers, a number, it can be days, it can be months, it can be the cell phone number. And I usually use technique. I can be direct, for example, direct suggestion to make it in a moment. I'm going to count from 1 to 10, and the number between 3 and 5 will disappear. Things like this, very common in stage hypnosis. But usually I say to my patient, okay, for example, I made a catalepsia, a levitation, and the arm stay in catalepsia, and say now, watch yourself, you're in the classroom, and you will draw the first letter of alphabet, okay? Letter A, okay. So I watch my patient and he's making with this hand the A. And I say, with this letter, it's what I call the alphabet of wellness, of happiness, you will find a good emotion, a good memory linked to that letter A, okay? And when you get it, just amplify it in your body, in your mind, with your breathing, or every kind of technique. And I see the patient, I see that he is looking for something, and something happens, and is increasing the emotion in his mind, in the body, and then I say, okay, now erase it and relax twice more. Relax your mind and relax your body twice more, and go to the next letter, and letter B. B can be well-being, and it can be a boat, if you like to go on boat, I don't know. It can be anything. I don't have to know what it's doing, but I'm just watching it. And I always give the suggestion that find things linked to the letter of the alphabet, things linked to good memory, a good emotion, good moments of the experience of life. But what's the most important is the suggestion that between each letter you erase and you double the relaxation of the mind and the body. And I give the suggestion, after one moment, your mind, your body will be so relaxed that all the letters will disappear and your arm will go down. And it's exactly the same technique as Develman used in his Develman induction. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to count from 100 to 1. On each number, you will double the relaxation. And when you get to the number 97, the numbers will all disappear. What we're looking for by making this amnesia by suggestion is the loss of access of information. And it's very important, because when you get it, you know that you start having an interesting level of trance. Somnambulic trance, usually, was designed by the amnesia. What I mean is that somnambulic subjects say, okay, I don't remember what happened when I was in hypnosis. And that's how we understood how to get it by design. If we can get amnesia by suggestion, it validates the level of trance that we gain to a subject. Then we go to more sensitive aspect in the subconscious activity is the analgesia and the anesthesia. Difference is very easy to understand. Analgesia is a partial loss of sensitivity, anesthesia is a complete loss of sensitivity. So there's a gap between the two. Because in the sensitivity, we have three components. We have the pain, we have the temperature, and the pressure. So when I get to the true hypnoanesthesia, it's, according to my understanding of the difference, that I get, in fact, a negative kinesthetic hallucination. When I operate this part of the body, the patient feels absolutely nothing, with no chemical anesthesia, because the kinesthetic is gone. So that's the definition of a negative hallucination. How can we get analgesia and anesthesia? We can make direct suggestion of numbness. We can make glove anesthesia, use a lot of compounding technique in my suggestion to get this. We can use a metaphor of the patient. How could it be? How could we get that anesthesia? Or we can, for example, say a quantification control room technique, for example, from 1 to 10, how do you feel your hand? 1 is you feel it, and 10 is completely anesthetized. And so you can increase the numbness of the hand and then transfer it. By the way, you don't have to necessarily transfer it like this. Subconscious can transfer things as fast as a snap, you know. And then we can go also to hallucination, positive or negative hallucination. It can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be kinesthetic, olfactive, and gustative. Technically, I don't go in hallucination. I don't need my patient to be in error scale 6 to start working. When I get the anesthesia, the hypnoanesthesia, it's largely enough to work. And it's a very good test because it's a test that can quantify, and it's also a very good convincer with the patient. For example, to get it, I can say to my patient, in a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At 3, you will feel all this part, and I'm touching it, of your hand completely numb, completely numb. 1, 2, 3. And just let it happen. I don't want him to make it happen by controlling. I say, Just be observer. Just observe what is happening, and you will feel the numbness coming in your hand. And when you get it, just any finger will move automatically. So after usually 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, sometimes it's like this. Okay. I say now, perfect. In a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and you will feel this part of your hand getting twice as numb, and it's amplified, and it will go in your finger, in all your finger, all in the pulp of all your finger. And I said, patient, 1, 2, 3, I touch, I say now, feel it's getting in your finger completely. It's compounding technique, very easy and very efficient. And I said, as the patient, when you feel that all your fingers are numb, you just move any fingers automatically, and it goes like this. And then I say, third time, it will the numbness in the hand will amplify with twice as much. And it will go in your hand and in the palm of your hand, all the hand. You will feel nothing. It will be completely numb. 1, 2, 3, I'm counting. Just let it go, let it happen. Okay. You can use the mantra of 𝗺𝗿𝗹𝗶𝗴. Want it to happen, watch it happen, etc. Very useful. So, and then the patient say, okay, it moves automatically, and all your hand is completely numb and anesthetized. When I get to that level, it's very good convincing technique, but also I know that I can start working with my patient. So with this OXO technique, I produce, in fact, hypnotic phenomena, like in stage hypnosis. I produce hypnotic phenomena, like in the DEI, the Devilman induction. That's exactly the same practical application of stage hypnosis in order to go very fastly and very deeply in the somnambulic trance that we are looking for. But in the OXO metaphor, we must understand that these two trances are linked. And so, I want to go, as you understood, on the right part of hypnosis, on the somnambulic trance, trance of activation. But I will use some elements of the trance of relaxation to get there when I got a problem, when I got an issue. For example, when I see that I can't get the next hypnotic phenomena, what I can use is a deepening technique, any kind of deepening technique that I know. I can use also an instant induction, very instant induction, which is very interesting because it deepens immediately and decreases the role and the activity of the conscious mind. I can use also metaphor that I give to the patient. For example, imagine a balloon in your hands, and as you're breathing, the balloon is increasing, okay, and watch your hands are moving. You can make it with the eyes open or the eyes closed. It doesn't matter. The subject doesn't have to have the eyes necessarily closed to go in trance. And I can use also metaphor, the subject. Okay, put your arm like this. What can you imagine that will weighten your arms and will lighten your hands? So things. I can use also NLP technique, like submodalities technique, to change the perception of the imagination. I can use also, when I got an issue, a quantification from 1 to 10. How do you feel your hand is numb? So if the patient says 6, okay, what could make it go to 7, to 8, to 9, to... Same technique, same scale that we are using, subjective scale in the pain technique management. Or sometimes I can make a subconscious task and a signaling. I say to the patient, okay, now we are going to ask your subconscious to numb completely this hand. And when sure that it's completely numb, just let me know by moving any fingers or any part of your body. I don't use a regular and design signaling. I say to my patient, move any part of your body. It can be the neck, it can be a finger, it can be your feet, just to say yes. That's it. Very simple. I show you 2 demos of these techniques. One is on a patient to make surgery without anesthesia. And you will see that it's very classical and I would say, modern techniques used in hypnosis. And you will see that I use only hypnotic phenomena in order to get these deep somnambulic trance. And the other video is a little bit, I would say, challenging. It's self-hypnosis to extract one tooth. A tooth was broken, so I had to extract and say to a friend, which is dentist, okay, I know I've started working on myself with hypnoanesthesia, and I know we will manage it like this, and it's very interesting experience. So enjoy.
Vous allez prendre une grande inspiration et vous pouvez laisser les yeux se fermer. Je vais prendre le poignet comme ça. Quand le bras est en haut, les paupières se ferment. Et quand le bras descend, les paupières s'entrouvrent. Pense au sommeil profond et détente. Bloque le poignet, le coude, l'épaule, le bras va flotter en l'air un petit instant et vous entraînez encore plus profondément dans la détente. Très bien. Vous allez dans le sommeil profond tout en continuant à tout entendre. Les gens du cabinet, autour de vous, la clim, peut-être les patients, le téléphone. Cet arrière-fond permet de vous détendre encore plus. Très bien. Voilà. Plus le bras flotte en l'air, comme détaché, un petit peu relâché, plus vous pouvez vous laisser aller à détendre encore plus profondément. Jusqu'à 3, le bras gauche va redescendre et le bras droit va monter. 1, 2 et 3. Et vous entraînez encore plus profondément, plus bas, plus loin à l'intérieur de vous. Très bien. Le bras droit va devenir complètement engourdi, endormi. Et quand vous avez cette sensation d'engourdissement dans les doigts de la main, un de vos doigts de la main bougera de façon totalement automatique. Très bien. Super. Je vais compter jusqu'à 3. Le bras va redescendre. 1, 2, 3. Très bien. Et vous allez transférer cette sensation d'engourdissement, sensation d'endormissement au niveau de toute la zone que je touche ici. Très bien. Bien sensible, sentez absolument rien. Tout sera calme, tranquille, facile. Dans la bouche, plus les sensations, un peu l'eau, les bruits, les vibrations seront présentes, plus vous allez pouvoir aller encore plus loin, encore plus bas, encore plus profondément en hypnose. Un peu comme si vous alliez dans une bulle. Plus les sensations seront présentes, l'eau, les bruits, les vibrations, les sensations dans la bouche. Vous pouvez aller encore plus bas, encore plus loin, encore plus profondément dans votre vie. Quand vous sentez que tout est bien engourdi, tout est bien endormi, vous êtes en toute confiance, en toute sécurité, on commence le traitement. N'importe quel doigt bougera de façon totalement automatique pour me signifier oui. Très bien, super. Comme le fauteuil part en arrière, vous allez partir dans le sommeil profond en continuant à tout entendre. À tout moment, vous pouvez bouger la mâchoire, fermer la mâchoire, ça gêne rien à détente, ça gêne rien à relaxation. Et vous pouvez refermer la bouche avec votre salive. Et détendre encore plus profondément tout le corps et tout l'esprit. Tout est fini. Vous pouvez lâcher prise. Et vous laissez aller encore plus bas. Encore plus profond. Encore plus. Vous cicatriserez parfaitement bien. Avec tout le confort dont vous avez besoin. Tous les processus biologiques vont s'activer pour vous offrir le bien-être et le confort. Dans un instant, je vais soulever le bras sera complètement doux et relâché. J'entraînerai encore plus loin, plus bas dans la détente et vous allez oublier tout ce qui s'est passé. Comment conserver cette sensation de détente, de contrôle, de lâcher prise et de confort. Je vais compter jusqu'à 5 et vous allez pouvoir revenir ici et maintenant. Vous sentirez merveilleusement bien, pleine d'énergie, de bien-être pour toute la soirée, pour tout le week-end et les jours qui viendront. Vous prenez une grande inspiration pour ramener de l'énergie dans le corps. À 2, vous pouvez bouger les pieds, les bras, les jambes, tout redevient normal. Très bien. À 3, ramenez votre esprit ici et maintenant, dans le temps, dans l'espace. À 4, à votre rythme, et quand vous le souhaitez, vous pouvez ouvrir les yeux. Et à 5, on est là.
Un minimum de... On n'est pas des bêtes, hein. Alors. C'est bon.
Tu appuies sur quelque chose ou pas?
Non. On peut lui parler? Le temps défile pas, c'est normal?
Tant que c'est rouge, c'est bon. Okay.
D'accord.
Sans la séparation de racines.
Après 2 minutes.
Merci. Ok, merci.
Allez, très bonne journée.
Ah oui, au revoir.
Au revoir.
tu m'as dit? Hein?
Il n'y a pas de titre.
Non. Il faut que je vérifie.
Ça va faire pas de temps quand même.
Voilà, monsieur Denis.
C'est des points.
Attends. Oui. Que bonne guerre.
Ça va?
Très bien.
Je pense qu'il était plus serein pour moi.
Ouais, j'ai senti que c'était stress.
Le fait de te faire mal, un truc comme ça.
Non, non, je sens rien.
Je sais pas qui.
Je te filme toujours, Brice. Hein?
So, in conclusion, I would say that this OXO metaphor sense of the trance is not revolutionary. It's just an application and understanding of what we are doing in our everyday practice of hypnosis. But it helps you to understand the idea behind the words and behind the techniques that we are using when we are making activation of the subconscious or when we are making relaxation of the conscious. And we understand that the two things are linked together. So I always say to my students, keep your hypnosis simple. But I say simple, but not easy. What I mean is that you have to work on it to make it work. You have to use very specific and very simple techniques, direct suggestion, compounding techniques, ideal motor things, hypnotic phenomena, but you have to know how to make them work. And the idea of the OXO metaphor is to give you creativity, freedom, and intuition to manage deep trance. Because you can do what you want by knowing the steps that you are looking for in order to gain the deep trance that you want.